We know the coaching change from Kevin O'Connell taking over from Mike Zimmer. They're going to be more aggressive. When you talk about weapons, he has as good as anybody with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, and Irv Smith. I love the setup for Kirk Cousins. I love the draft costs for Kirk Cousins. You see, again, the ADP here and some of the quarterbacks that he's going behind that he might just end up being better than. I would, for example, draft him over Derek Carr, draft him over Aaron Rodgers. You can make a case that he should be better than Matthew Stafford. Keith, we know the national perception of Kirk Cousins is he's just not a very good quarterback. But he's coming off back-to-back seasons with over 22 fantasy points per game. I think this is the year he goes over 25.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where that national perception comes from except for Pete Prisco in primetime. Like, if it's a game that he has to win, then there's been some problems. But from a fantasy perspective, who cares? He completes 2/3 of his passes. He averages almost 8 yards per attempt. He's at a touchdown rate of at least 5.9% each of the last 3 seasons. And now he gets a creative offensive mind as a head coach. The sky is the absolute limit. His career high for pass attempts, 606 twice in 2016 and 2018. He's going over that number this year.
And one of those times was with Kevin O'Connell as the quarterbacks coach in Washington, so somebody who knows him and hopefully will maximize his potential. A couple of running backs that I'm looking at here, both rookies, Zamir White for the Raiders and Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs. You know the situation. They're both potentially the number 2 guys on their depth chart. Now, for the Raiders, Zamir White might be behind technically Amir Abdullah because of his role in the passing game. And who knows what the Chiefs are going to do. We're waiting to see what happens with cutdown day if Ronald Jones makes the final roster. But I think both these guys have shown you enough in the preseason that you could say, okay, lottery ticket type of guys. And it seems as if the Raiders, for example, don't love Josh Jacobs. Shocking based on how things have gone there with Josh McDaniels. So Zamir White is the one player that I don't want to leave my draft without. I think he's going to be similar to what James Robinson was a few years ago, where you take him late and he maybe has an opportunity to be a difference maker. And Pacheco, we know, tied to the Chiefs as somebody who could be significant. They love speed. He's as fast as anybody. So, Dave, when you look at these 2 rookie running backs, is there one you prefer over the other? And are these 2 guys that you're targeting as well?
I'm not necessarily targeting them, but I don't mind drafting them if they just fall to spots where I'm comfortable taking them. Pacheco ahead of Zamir White. And you saw it last year. There were 5 games that Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed before the midseason, or maybe right around the midseason. And in 3 of those games, Darrell Williams was awesome. He had huge fantasy numbers. I just don't know if Pacheco is going to get that same type of an opportunity. I wonder if Jerick McKinnon is the guy that we're kind of missing there. McKinnon at least has experience. He's a good passing downs back. He's already played, he's sprinkled in as a passing downs back this preseason. I think that's going to be his role no matter what happens to Edwards-Helaire and to Pacheco. I think Pacheco's there in case Clyde Edwards-Helaire stinks. So if you think that Edwards-Helaire is going to stink, and he's definitely not been great, then Pacheco makes sense. I still think that Josh Jacobs is going to be the guy in Las Vegas. White's going to be behind him. Almost the same exact story of what's going on with Pacheco in Kansas City, except I'm not sure how much playing time Zamir White's going to get compared to Pacheco. I think Pacheco could be in for as many as 6-7 touches per game. White might be around 3 or 4. Jacobs still the best bet to be the lead back for the Raiders. White's someone you just carry on your bench, and you hold on to him as long as you can before you need that roster spot on somebody else.
We told you at the start of the show about the news in Kansas City that Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling returning to practice. Juju dealing with the knee injury. MVS was in the concussion protocol. So, Heath, now that we have the full complement of receivers for Patrick Mahomes, there is no more Tyreek Hill, there is no more Byron Pringle, no more Demarcus Robinson. Clearly a ton of targets available. And the money followed MVS. So we're all excited about Juju hopefully reliving some of those glory days from Pittsburgh. But I don't think people should overlook Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Yes, Sky Moore was drafted and they still have Mecole Hardman, but we saw in the preseason running different routes, doing some different things, and just missing on a few shot plays down the field. I'm excited about this guy. I think he could be a number 4 receiver to start the season and potential number 3 guy as the year unfolds.
Yeah, my week 1 ranking for MVS will be much closer to where your ranking is than where mine is. I think early in the year there should be little doubt it's going to be Juju and MVS on the field all the time, and I think it's Mecole Hardman's the 3rd guy on the field after that. I don't know that I like his chances of holding Sky Moore off for the entire year, but I do think he's a better guy to draft if you're a little weak at wide receiver and you're not sure who you're starting week 1. I expect both Juju and MVS to be ranked inside my top 40 wide receivers week 1.
And again, Juju's already battled an injury. It could be MVS and Sky Moore. It could be Mecole Hardman better than all these guys because he has the most familiarity there. So there's a lot of uncertainty. Clearly, it's not a bad idea to draft all 4 of these guys depending on how deep your bench goes. But again, follow the money in some cases, and the Chiefs decided that this was the guy that they targeted because he can run downfield, and we know Mahomes wants to at least open up the offense based on how teams were defending them at the end of the season. You've heard me say these 2 names a lot on this show, both Josh Palmer, KJ Osborne, two guys that you want to look at the end of your draft. They're basically lottery ticket type of wide receivers. We saw it last year with Osborne. Thielen missed time. He is going to play a bigger role this year as the third receiver behind both Thielen and Justin Jefferson, so he could do a little bit more than what we saw when everybody was healthy. But again, if Thielen gets hurt, or in the event that Justin Jefferson gets hurt, cut my mic now, then we could see that Osborne has a bigger role. And Palmer at the end of the season last year stepped up in a big way for the Chargers. You've heard nothing but rave reviews about him this offseason also. So again, could be the handcuff type of guy, but could also have an opportunity to help you in some deeper leagues. So two guys that I like very late, and two guys that could be very good. I'll also throw Tyler Boyd into this conversation as well because of his role as the third receiver for the Bengals. So look for these guys late. They're basically free on draft day. They could have big roles if in fact an injury does occur. So there's the sleepers for me.